Welcome, everybody. Namaste. Lovely to be here. Happy Friday. And blessings to all of you for the equinox. I hope I've done quite a few readings over the past few days. In the Facebook group, I actually shared a fantastic reading that happened in the Facebook group on Wednesday night. And there were some very powerful readings on Tuesday. So I hope that each and every one of you have put some energy into the equinox and building sort of a plan for how I can, at least this weekend, put some energy into bringing a little more conscious balance. Which element needs to come into balance? So I decided that I've been working really hard. I'm doing a lot of preparation for upcoming course starting this weekend, Tarot Through the Chakras, and just rereading through some of my favorite chakra references, rehashing the courses I taught a couple years ago, and just sort of lost in prep for classes. And so I just decided to do something really fun today and just had a really, really good laugh looking and listening to many of your videos. I'm sorry I did not credit you all in the description below, but there were a lot of people that responded to Tarot of Exception. And the original hashtag, I want to credit the creator, whose name is Tara. Cozy Core Craft, and I think the channel has changed names, but presently it's called Cozy Core Craft. Donna, honestly, I have two go-to ones. I always look at Anno Dea Judas, Eastern Mind, Western Body. I think that is an excellent reference, and it's a lot for somebody just to begin with, but I think that is, if you know what you're reading, I think that's a great reference tool. And please feel free to put that book into the chat for me. I'd appreciate it. And then the other, I have a bunch that come through. So I have a lot of books in this series. This is from the lineage that I am initiated in. So Sadhana was a name that was gifted to me when I received my mantra initiation. And so one of my teachers is of the my main teacher, Satyananda lineage, two of them actually. And I have a whole bunch of books in this series, and I use them all the time. The primary chakra reference is Kundalini Tantra, and this is an amazing reference book. I would not recommend it if you are just coming in as a beginner, but this is a powerful, powerful book. And then in this series, there is so I was reading through Mula Bandha, which is it's a lock. It's a yogic practice for containing energy. Tattva Shuddhi is another meditation practice that has great references. And there's also a little mini book for each of the chakras, I believe, in that series, or at least for the lower chakras. So I refer to all of those all the time. I have looked at other books. I do refer to other websites. It's a real passion of mine. I love working with chakra energy, and I'm very excited to make this course into something that really has my signature on it. Yeah, I think it's really important that we understand the tarot masters that have come before us have studied a lot of different disciplines, and there is so much richness in the tarot, in the earlier decks, and it's just, I love it. I love nerding out on the tarot, so it's really fun. So thank you for asking the question. Okay, so welcome everybody that's strolling on in. Witchy Wallflower, hello to you. I don't believe I know your name, but if you want to share, let me know. I may have it in my handy little Excel spreadsheet. I will open that up. Welcome to Saskia Kalispera. And so, yeah, so if you don't know me, I have, could you call me an Excel nerd? I do. I have a lot of spreadsheets for a lot of things. And I'm going to go to my W's, and I do not see you, Miss Witchy. Witchy Wallflower. What a great name. I'm just going to put you down here in case you do share your name, and I'll type it in. Witchy Wallflower. I know not everybody likes to share their name on YouTube. Okay, Kim. Okay, excellent. Hi, Kim. I'm Sadhana, and your name is now in my list. And that goes for anybody, right? If you want to share your name, share your name. If I don't know it, that's fine too. Okay, welcome. Fernanda, namaste. Thanks for being here. What are we going to do today? So we're going to do this tag, which is, if you look at the description box below, this is hilarious. So I watched so many of your videos, and you talked about, I don't really like collage decks, but I'm going to make an exception for this one and that one and that one. And I'm just going to name some of these. Okay, so these are things people do not like in tarot decks. Renaming everything. So renaming all of the suits, renaming all of the quirk cards. People don't like pip decks. Too much white space. Nudity. Limited color palettes, pastel decks, black and white decks, monochromatic decks. People are very particular about their color tone in their decks. And I guess this is just a lesson to say that there really is no pleasing everybody. But all of this criteria, individual tarot tubers made an exception for, because there was one deck that they couldn't say no to because there was something really special about it. And you can see that long, long list down here. And some of these things I will address today. Anthropomorphic animals, I have to agree. I do have a hard time with that, and I can think of a couple of decks that I still have that probably will disappear. One of them is the Colette Baron Reid Oracle deck. I don't know why I still have that deck. I'm just not a big one. I also put Other Kin Tarot in my purgatory box. I'm going to rename that box. That's a name I just heard other tarot tubers use, but I do have a box that I've added a lot of decks to recently that are on their way out. Okay, welcome. Hi, Laura and Janine. So let's get started looking at some of my exceptions. And I have to agree with the whole keyword thing. Why? Why don't I like keywords? And, I use the Thoth Tarot. The Thoth Tarot comes with keywords. And that is something I think as a reader, you need to learn to get away from. You need to be able to ignore the keywords, because the keywords do not always apply in a reading. There's always more to the reading than the keyword. And sometimes I find the keyword can really, really throw, especially a beginner reader. Oh, well, am I supposed to speak to that keyword? Well, you can, but if you know something about the tarot and you're looking at the relationship among all the cards, then you may not necessarily need to read the keyword. Now, this is a deck I haven't had out for a while, and I think this is a real sort of Gemini deck. There is a intensity of vocabulary on these decks, and all of the, I'm thinking of there's a 2 cent oracle as well too. This creator, whose name is Rick, I believe. I forget Rick's last name. Whose, what do you call it? Pen name is Madame Clara. And this is the 5 Cent Tarot. This is an amazing tarot deck. It is really, it's amazing how some of these words pop off the cards and you wouldn't necessarily have chosen that word for yourself. Now, there are some older decks that do this as well too, where you have a word at the top, and then if you're reading reversals, your reversal word is down at the bottom. And there are other words scattered around as well too. So this particular card is the Page of Cups. Curiosity is up at the top. That is not a keyword I would necessarily use as my primary keyword for the Page of Cups, but it certainly does add something to the dimension of this card. And honestly, sometimes when I don't even know what I'm looking at, there's so much in this collage. So much going on in these collages. I don't think I've ever actually sat down and looked at all the details of these cards. However, these, and I want to agree, Samara's Soul Scribe, welcome. This is Shonda, for those of you that don't know Shonda. She's a member of my Facebook group, a lovely soul from Hawaii. And she says she uses this deck for business and work readings. I find this is a deck very much for precision. Like when you need clear words, it can be very, very insightful. Yeah. Victoria Ephemera. Donna commented on this as well too. You love the 5 Cent as well. I don't think I've met anybody that doesn't like this deck. So here is Adventure, and the Knight of Fire is a chess piece. Are all the knights... You know what? I should really spend some time with this deck and do a little bit more close look at the collage. But yeah, so this is definitely an exception. I do not have, other than the Thoth Tarot, I don't know if I have any decks on my table that have keywords. Oh, yes, the Wildwood Tarot does. And that's definitely an exception. Victorian, sorry. Yes. Yeah, I am going to show the Wildwood because it's another exception. Yeah. Okay, so what else? Pip decks, no problem. White space, no problem. Nudity, no problem. Monochromatic, limited color palettes, love them. I have a lot of them in my library. Let's talk about modern decks. Modern decks. So, maybe surprising to some of you, I sold my Poppy Palin deck. I found it to be very limiting. There was a card that I really didn't like. That was the real estate card. And while I loved the little fairies that floated around in that deck, loved the death card, fantastic death card, maybe one of the best ones I've ever seen in an illustrated tarot deck, I just found it really, really hard to work with. And in the same way, probably the Urban Tarot will go into my decks to sell box. I'm just not one for really contemporary, modern sort of, where the picture is so very, very specific. It distracts you a lot. Okay. And I know that Saskia, yeah, I'm going to come back to this one as well too. I know this is, I do have an example of that. Okay, so my example for modern decks so this one is an exception. This one is billed as a tarot deck for shadow work. I don't necessarily see it that way, but there's something about this deck that has read very, very well for me. This is called Emerging from Darkness. It is by Robin Cole. I don't know if it is available as a mass market yet. It was, I believe it was a Kickstarter. I also have Robin Cole's other deck, which is called Beautiful Rebellion Tarot. This is a brilliant, brilliant reader, this deck. And I love her choice in these cards. And perhaps it is the slightly, it's the monochromatic colors. I'm not sure what it is. It might have to do with the perspective. I have absolutely no issues with this deck. I find it very heartwarming, very heartwarming. And I usually have this deck out in the winter for some reason. It's a deck that I really could have out more. Yeah. And I don't think I've ever seen this deck on somebody's channel. I want to go to Donna's comment. I generally don't like modern decks. They take me out of the magic and mysticism of tarot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So this is, I do have to make an exception for this one. I don't know. Maybe it is the color. But I've never had a problem with reading for this one. It's not so in your face as, and I don't mean to knock Poppy Palin's deck, because like I said, there's a few cards in that deck that really, really touched me. But this one has, somehow it reads differently. There are a lot of modern decks that have come in and out of my tarot library. One of the Book of Shadows decks was really, really interesting. Those have gone. Housewives Tarot, which is kind of kitschy, can't read with that kind of a deck. The Pagan Tarot, I had both variations of that, the border and the borderless, and was really curious about that deck, but I can't work with that sort of a deck. So yeah, so this is Emerging from Darkness by Robin Cole, and it is my exception to modern decks. Yeah. Okay. Now, I want to go back to Saskia's comment about when everything is changed. So this was, I forget which tarot tuber mentioned this one. So what this means is that all of a lot of the titles are changed. So a lot of the majors are renamed. And for sure, all of the suits are renamed, as well as often the court cards are renamed. And one deck that comes to mind that I really wanted to love, but there were so many things that weren't working for me, was a light colored, had pink edges, very spiritual deck, had lots of Christian imagery in it. And one of the things I did like about that deck was the use of the Queen as the listener of the suit. I think that is an excellent change of name. Like that, the name of that deck is escaping me right now. I don't have it anymore. I had the Awakening edition. I can see it. It wasn't tarot size, a little squarer, more like an oracle deck. Yeah. So the deck I want to share with you that is definitely an exception, and I have no intention of getting rid of it, is the Numinous Tarot. And this is an earlier iteration. I don't know if the cardstock has changed. It's kind of on glossy cardstock, not like the beautiful cardstock that their oracle deck is on. Yes, sorry, I want to go to Donna. Let's deal with these topics one at a time. So I resisted purchasing the Tarot of Saint Croix. by Lisa St. Croix, because I just didn't need another. And this is another reason too why I didn't purchase Super Lunaris, and I kind of regret purchasing it. I bought it for one or two cards. It's a deck that's probably going to have to go. This is the Tarot of St. Croix, and yes, that's the one, Kim. Ember and Aura. Yeah. See, I can just describe. So when I'm looking at these cards, I'm not seeing modern. I'm seeing a scenic court card. Not feels like Egyptian mythology. Now here is a modern card. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see how many cards feel particularly modern in this deck. For sure this card. Now this deck would get a thumbs down from some people for its inconsistency. So one of the tarot tubers said, I don't like decks that are inconsistent. So what does that mean? So that means we have different cultures that are represented, different deities from all over the world. I don't know what that means. We have mixed contemporary and historical images. And I think this deck would fall into that category of extremely inconsistent. However, I was listening to a lot of you out there in TarotTube, and Liz is one person I'm thinking, who is a student of mine and fellow TarotTuber, and this is one deck that she talked about all the time, and I didn't have it. And then I saw that it was coming out in a new version, and it was going to have black borders, almost borderless. So the orange borders were gone, and I decided, okay, if I'm going to have a copy in my library, I'm going to get the original version, and I purchased it. And I just opened it up and started doing a few readings with it, and it's reading really well. And it doesn't feel awkward to me in any way. But I think, Donna, more than anything, if I was to criticize this deck, I would say it's for its inconsistency. Kasha. Yeah. So there's something about it. Okay. Hi, Donna. Welcome. We have another Donna in the house. Not another Donna, another wonderful Donna. Okay. So this is the Numinous by Cedar McLeod. On my box has their previous name. Amazing oracle, my goodness, and love the work that they have done with this theme. Hi, Damian, welcome. This deck has changed so many names. So you can see World and Star sound familiar. The suit of Pentacles is tomes. So we have a journey into a library, or this is an incredible Four of Tomes. These beautiful editions, first editions of books are in a glass cabinet, not to be touched. So instead of the Empress, we have the Nurturer, and there are a lot of name changes. Then instead of the Hierophant, we have the Visionary, Awakening, which I've seen in lots of different tarot decks for the 20th Arcanum, the Hanged One. The Knights are Explorers, which I'm sure you've seen in plenty of other decks. So again, the suit of Pentacles is a suit of Tomes. And that theme is beautifully carried through with the Oracle deck. Yeah. Dreamer. So the Dreamers are the pages. And I've seen the Dreamers in other decks as well too. The Masters, the Kings are the Mystics. So a lot has changed in this deck. The library theme is kind of brilliant. I do like that. Why do we have only, I must have, Vials. So Vials is the Suit of Cups. This one is kind of interesting. This deck is very inclusive of gender, inclusive of age. The suit of, now this suit is really interesting. The suit of air is the suit of bells. And when I think of, there's a card here that's really extraordinary. It's a very loud wind chime. One of those ones like a, you would hear in Bali, one of the really big ones. And so when I think of the suit of bells and the energy of air, it just brings up a different energy. And I think this deck has something definitely to offer. The bells just get really, really noisy in some of these cards. Yeah. I don't know if that, this one, the Nine of Bells. I can just hear how very, very noisy this is. Okay. And this beautiful crystal bell for the ace. So yeah, so this is my exception for changing everything. The suit of fire is the suit of candles. And the queens are not queens. I forget what the queens are. The dreamers are the pages. We have dreamers, creators. So the queens are creators. Everything has changed. And I can read with this deck. No problem. It is, it's a really interesting deck to read with. The Numinous Tarot. And I love the extra card in this deck. That's one of the categories nobody said, well, I made an exception for the extra cards. And maybe that's because we can always take out the extra card. We don't have to leave it in. Now, as far as changing everything up, there are many decks I have passed on. And one that comes to mind is the Forest of Enchantment. I just couldn't cope with that. That was too much for me to handle. And there have been other ones where I've completely, I just like, whoa, this is too much. This is the extra card in this deck. It's really beautiful. It's called the Numinous. Yeah. That would make a good video. Somebody should remind me. Let's do a video. Let's do a Friday chat on extra cards. My decks, my favorite decks with extra cards. Yeah. I would like that. Do you leave them in? Do you take them out? What do you do with them when you don't use them? Yada, yada, yada. Laura, I'm going to go to your comment. If I have to translate suits and card titles in my head, I get frustrated and set the deck aside. Yeah, I get that. It was all those name changes. It was super glossy. And I have a lot, or I had a lot of different fairy tale decks. And the one I have kept is Tarot of the Divine. That one I think is a great one. But that I'm not talking about those kind of decks today. Too many other things to talk about. All right. So here is the next one. Highly specific alternative systems. Like Dreams of Gaia. A lot of people use that one here. That was their exception. highly specific alternative systems. Can you think of other decks that have highly specific alternative systems? There is a very different astrological system in one of the decks. I'm going to share with you in another category. I will point that out. So what does this mean? This means that it is not, this deck, you know, I love this deck. I did an extra 25 videos on this deck or something. This is the Wildwood Tarot. And I learned a lot from multiple journeys around the wheel with this deck. And it's a matter, the more you practice with it, the easier it becomes. And the more I sit with it, the more I see other things. Celtic Wisdom Tarot, yes. So I was working with this card, the Mirror card, which is the 12th Arcanum. And really rereading the guidebook and looking between the lines. And I just find this deck has so much to offer. And you can, so this is one of the cards for the autumn equinox. The Woodward, which is the strength card, or a variation on it, is one of the cards for Lammas, Lugnasad. And every single major is connected to one of the 8 Sabbats. And then the minors, so the 6s, for example, the 6s are at the equinoxes and the solstices. And so it lines up very nicely on the wheel, the way everything is set up. However, if you were reading with the previous iteration of this deck, which was called the Greenwood Tarot, and somebody has asked me to do a deeper study of comparing and contrasting Greenwood and Wildwood, and I very well may do that at some point. I'm interested to do that. You just have to get to know the deck. And you do that, and then everything kind of makes sense. Whether or not you remember it is another thing. Now, like the Thoth Tarot, the kings come first in the court card order. So the kings open the new seasons. But in the Thoth, well, anyway, you know, you can't compare apples and oranges. That's all I've got to say. One of the things I love, one of the correspondences is the Fool we see again in the Star card. Love that. And this deck also got me to look at some of the Waite Smith images in a very different way. Yeah, so I kind of love it. It's on my rack. It doesn't go off my rack. There's always a need for some reason or other to bring it out. And you learn little things like this little cute little wren, who is the Page of Arrows, makes an appearance in the Hermit card, or the Hooded Man, and you just get to know the deck. It's lovely. It's really lovely. So I can see some other decks you have in the chat here. One of them is the Marielle. And the Marielle I find to be a very powerful deck. And it has put some cards in unusual places as far as astrological associations go, given different weight to the order and the energy of the elements. So if you want to work with the Marielle and understand it better, it just needs time. It just needs time. It's a brilliant, brilliant deck. Why did I show you the Wildwood Tarot? Oh, decks with very specific alternative systems. Okay. Well, I guess I use the Marielle too, so I guess that does fit there. It is also, the Marielle has different tree of life path associations than the Crowley Tarot. And I want to thank, actually, it was the Marielle Tarot that got me diving into the Tarot of the Holy Light and looking at all the different interpretations of the paths on the Tree of Life. There are lots of different ways to read it, not just the way it was interpreted by the Golden Dawn. So I appreciate decks that get me thinking. Yeah. You need the energy for it, though, and the time. Herb Crafter. Herb Crafter. Herb Crafter. I really like this deck. I have it on my table right now. And the reason it's on the table for this video has to do with photographic decks. And I have both of Joanna Powell Colbert's decks on the table. This one, so if you don't know her art, I'm just going to get the Gaian Tarot out. I mean, who doesn't know her work? So I actually, believe it or not, I had the Gaian Tarot, the Schiffer one, first. Couldn't stand the silver edges, the cardstock, and didn't want to try to trim it because the cardstock is so darn thick. And I went on a search for the out-of-print Llewellyn version. Found it for a horrible price, bought it, and loved the cardstock. And I have there are some cards in this deck that I really, really like. So my exception here is photographic decks. Generally speaking, if you are trying to sell me a deck that is based on photographs, I'm not going to buy it. But this one, there are a number of cards that I find really very touching. Six of Cups is one. And so I liked the cards so much, I went out and found a more expensive version of the deck that I could actually handle and enjoy working with. And I know there was a third version also. There also was another variation, an indie version. I don't think you can get it anymore. And you could get it directly from GaianTarot.com. Yeah, this is the one I'm talking about, Six of Water. This is so beautiful. I find it so touching, so touching. Now the Herb Crafters is the same technique. So there is a photograph, and then she uses the Prismacolor pencil crayons on top of the photographs. However, there are no people in Herb Crafters. There are only hands. So the effect is different. So this is the Herb Crafter, which I've also done a deep dive on. If you want to spend 14 or 15 videos with me and you want to go into this one. So the curanderas are the wise ones. If you want an equivalent, they are the kings. They are the ones who teach and hold the ancient knowledge of the magic. Yeah. I really like this deck. So the scenes were set up for each of the photos, and then they were colored. Yeah, they're really beautiful. Sorry, I'm just looking at these cards because I think they're so gorgeous. And to me, they don't even look like photographs. But I believe the same process was used for this deck that was used for the Gaian Tarot. Yeah. Okay, So yeah, so my exception for the photographic decks is the Guy in Tarot. I have, I have, I've had a lot over the years. I think one that I found, I had the Thelema Tarot at one point. What do you call those ones? Like they're photo manipulated, um, so like I can't do the Danielle Noel decks. They just, they, I can't do those ones. I don't know if I have any other photo. I can't even like, yeah, just no, thank you. And I feel badly too, because I know that there have been a few of them out there that had a lot of really great intention behind them. And I can think of, yeah, and I know some of the creators put a lot of heart and soul into them. It's just not a medium that I really appreciate. Yeah, I don't know if digital art is the one, what I was thinking. Yeah, but yeah, digital art, I suppose. Okay, so let's go on. Borders, no borders, depends. Rose petal finish, don't really like it either. I've made an exception. Probably the only rose petal finish deck that I still have is the one that's kind of purpley, Star Seeker Tarot. Yeah, I haven't given that one away. Don't like rose petal finish either. All right, let's talk about multiple artists. Multiple artists coming together for a collaboration. Alleyman is an example. I did a couple videos on this deck. I do not use this deck for reading. It doesn't read well. But I'm not going to give it away. Not going to give it away. I have organized my box, and I have, this is my deck at the front. I never did finish my Alleyman Lenormand project. I was trying to find 36 cards that I could use for Lenormand from this collection. However, I really appreciate this deck because it got me to look at a whole bunch of other artwork and artists. It also made me realize what an amazing digital artist that the creator is. Yeah, I had to write on the cards too. There's an excellent guidebook that goes with this. So this particular deck actually got me to purchase no fewer than 5. Yeah, and this is one of them because I have the Architect's Tarot now in my, and this one as well too. This is the Vindor Tarot. I purchased that deck. I don't think this one was an Alleyman made me do it, but I saw this on the shelf at work. I have this deck as well too. This is the Transient Tarot. And I want to talk about this deck. I do have this out on the table today. So this, I think, is a brilliant idea. I think we should all sort of do this exercise. However, generally speaking, I'm not one for decks that have multiple artists. And that, again, that's about the continuity of energy in the deck. And I sold my Ostara Tarot. There was a couple of cards in that, and I also felt a bit weird about doing that because the Ostara Tarot was created by 4 girls when they were together at Emily Carr College in Vancouver, and it just had this local vibe about it, and I really liked that, but I couldn't work with it. Didn't like the cardstock. Didn't like the silver edges, so I passed that one on. But I did love the Queen of Swords. She's very, very beautiful. In this category of multiple artists, And I'm going to talk about this deck in a couple of different ways. This is the Wee Moon Tarot that is created from many years of the Wee Moon Journal. And it is very inconsistent. It has horizontal cards as well as vertical cards. And it has every kind of artwork that you could possibly imagine. And it doesn't bother me because I am a fan of the Wee Moon journals. I love what they stand for. The messages are absolutely brilliant. I find the artwork to be intuitive. I think they could have done a much better job with the production of this deck. But the question here is, can you work with a deck that has multiple artists? Jonathan, aloha. I'm not sure if I said hello to you, so welcome. Yeah. So this is the Wee Moon Tarot, and I find it's very, very poignant. Now, this is one of those decks that has another system. And if you read the tarot with the Golden Dawn astrological system, of course, you can put that layer onto here. But this particular deck has its own astrological perspective built in. And I spent a little bit of time learning it. However, I haven't memorized it, and for the life of me, I can't tell you what it is right now. And so I've just chosen to not work with that. And I suppose this could also go in the category of modern, because there's some very modern cards here. So this is a real mixed bag sort of a deck. Yeah. Honestly, I would wait. Hi, Beth. Welcome. Thanks for making a comment here. The cardstock is, like I said, the production. They did a really shitty job with the production. This is a company that produces a high quality journal every year for years and years and years. Why in the world did they could have done such a better job, especially because they are celebrating some extraordinary art. So why the big borders and why the lousy cardstock? I don't know. And I did. I let them know. Believe it. I wrote to them. I am disappointed. So apparently the team that put this together is no longer there. The person who's in charge and who's working with the next version of the deck. So I was going to say, wait, there's going to be another version of this deck, and I would wait for that to come out. And I hope the next version of the deck honors the artwork a little bit better. Yeah. Okay. That is the Wee Moon. I suppose if changes make sense and they're not so overbearing that they are distracting, then I can work with them. Okay. Good. Yeah. No, keep an eye out for it. The journals are fantastic. I'm sure most of you know the journals. I'll share with you my journal. I don't write in them. I enjoy the poetry. I write in them sometimes. I enjoy the poetry. I use them as a lunar reference, so it's always on my desk. I always know what's going on with the planets. It's got the moon, tells you what sign the moon is in. And the art and the poetry is absolutely stunning. And sometimes I share the poetry on my channel from time to time. And I don't know, it's really moving. And it's got a lot of educational stuff and like it's got the ephemeris for the year in the back. And it has notes if you don't know what all the glyphs and the signs mean. And every year it has, instructions in the back. It direct or retrograde, explaining what that means. It's a really handy little reference. I've bought this journal for years and years. It comes spiral bound and not spiral bound. I think it might even come in another version. Yeah. Okay. I really do like this a lot. Do I have any Fandom decks? I don't know if I do. You're talking like the Golden Girls deck or, based on TV shows. Like I don't have the Harry Potter deck or the Lord of the Rings deck or Game of Thrones. I don't have any of those. I'm not sure that they would work for me. I don't have that deck. Yeah, I don't. Doesn't do anything for me. So the answer is no. I'm with you on that one. Okay. Do I have other things here? Of course, there's always other things. Oh, I got my extra book for the literary tarot. So I don't think I'm going to be reading with the literary tarot, but I'm definitely going to put some more energy into studying it. And I am not disappointed in my purchase of the extended book. So the literary tarot is also multiple artists, and the literary tarot. So this is the extra book. I didn't order it with the Kickstarter, and it's just really lovely. I mean, the book. You don't really even need the tarot deck. You can just sort of get the book. It's kind of fantastic. It reminds me no, it's even better. I was going to say it reminds me of that extra book that I bought for the Tarot of the Divine. But in that book, it's just the stories, and it doesn't have the tarot information in that book. And this book goes through how the choices were made for the piece of literature that was assigned to the card. Yeah, so I don't really need the tarot deck anymore. I've got this one. Oh, this is cool. I haven't even looked at the back of this book. And it's got all the stuff about all the artists at the back as well, too. Yeah. The reason that I am curious about the literary tarot is I'm always looking for literature, characters in literature, songs, books, quotes to associate with cards. And that's why I purchased it, because I'm always looking to see cards through a different story, building my repertoire, I'm spending a lot of time with mythological correspondences these days too, trying to build that and understand that. I probably won't use it as a tarot deck, but I think it has something to offer, and so that's why it's here on my table. Okay. I have something to share. I almost, as soon as I got it, sold my copy of the Bonestone Tarot. Does anybody remember why? What upset me so much? I should have prepped this in advance. There was a card that felt like the idea for the artwork was stolen. And it really upset me. It really upset me. However, I started to work with the deck more and more. And sorry, I'm going to go back down so you can see the cards better. And the deck just had so much to offer. So I suppose in a way, this is an exception. I suppose it is an exception, but I want to show you the card. I want to show you why this upset me. And that was because I have loved this deck for a long time. I just think this is how I connected to tarot with one of my daughters. And she has my original copy of this deck. And this deck has, I'm talking about Tarot of the Hidden Realm. This deck has a very special place in my heart. It means a lot to me. It's about my connection with my girls. I'm trying to find the card now. There it is. This is the card. And so when I did my initial walkthrough of Bonestone, I almost wrote Avalon a scathing letter. I was so pissed off. It still upsets me, but and I wonder in the mass market deck if this card will be changed. And I also wonder if anybody else complained about this, because I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible. And I imagine that Avalon has a very fond association with Tarot of the Hidden Realm. So yeah. However, the Bonestone Tarot has a lot to offer. A lot. And I hated the metallic edges, but you can see how much I've used it, and it is, yeah. There's some powerful cards in this deck. I think Anna did a great job working with Avalon on this deck. There's some cards some suits I think that are quite extraordinary, like the journey from the Ace to the Ten of Cups. I think that is amazing. Don't love every card, but I took out the card that was painted for Avalon. The Fool is really a beautiful card. The Bruja card, I don't like that card. That's another one of my pet peeves, is I don't like, so there's the Ace of Cups, there's the Ten of Cups. I love it when there's sort of correspondences between aces and tens. Yeah. So what I mean is, Colette Baron Reed put herself in a deck as one of the goddesses in her goddess deck. That just makes me want to throw up. I don't want to look at you in your tarot deck. And I know Joanna is in the Gaian Tarot, so that's also an exception. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let me catch up on the chat, and then I will do my last category. Yes, there are other cards, but that is the one that upset me the most. One of the problems is the Dumbledore card. So she thought that the Magician card would definitely have to be changed. I know that's one. I can't off the top of my head think what might be changed. And it's really interesting. I'm going to show you the Lumina Tarot in a moment. And I have a feeling this is inspiration from the Lumina Tarot. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Donna doesn't like the metallic edges, and Jonathan's haven't chipped at all. Well, okay. And I know Avalon Cameron does not riffle shuffle. She loathes people who do, or she loathes that technique. Yeah. I feel like I've shared some of this stuff before. I have 3 or 4 more I'm going to show you. And if you have to go, and I've been nattering on too long, thank you so much for being here. And you can always come back and watch the replay. Okay. So this is the Lux Prognia Tarot. And it's presently not available, and I have a feeling that it's not available because the distributor in the US got so many complaints, and it was such an outrageous price. However, there was something about this tarot that I just had to have. This artwork, this artwork just blew me away. It looks a little bit maybe like I don't know what it looks like, but I absolutely love the artwork. And then I received it, and this cardstock is a little bit like one of the I had another deck like this. It was large cards. It was I can think of the deck. Anyway, I was shocked that this was just printed on thick paper. So I wrote to the distributors, who was a Texada maybe, and they gave me a large discount and refunded some of my money. The deck is not available right now, and I'm hoping that eventually it will come back with better cardstock and also with a guidebook. It is more of an oracle for sure than a tarot. It does have major correspondences that make sense for the major, it does have correspondences for the major arcana that makes sense, but then away from that, it really does do its own thing. Yeah. But the artwork, wow, I just think it's extraordinary. Okay. Tarot decks that have that are too white, too skinny, too young. Honestly, maybe that's showing my age or something. Too white, too skinny, too young. That's beautiful, Beth. Thank you. It's like the Shimmering Veil and the Super Lunaris had a baby. Yeah, something like that. I don't want to look at a deck that's all white people, that's all young people, all skinny people. I really do like a deck that has a variety of people. And I do have a few decks that I haven't disposed of because they aren't diverse. And some decks that are sold on their diversity, I've also given away for other reasons. I didn't like, and this is nothing bad about the artist. It's just my taste. I really don't appreciate Jamie Sawyer's artwork. And I had both her Lenormand and her tarot deck, and I sold them both. I loved the Knight of Pentacles and some of the older people in the deck. I thought it was so touching, but I really couldn't connect with the deck. So those, I don't have those anymore. This might hurt. I don't know what that deck. I didn't like a lot of the cards in that deck, and that was one that was sold as a deck of inclusivity. So I'm not just going to buy a deck for inclusivity. It also has to resonate with me. So there's lots and lots of considerations. I will not get rid of my Yonasa Yaus because all of the girls are thin and young. I just won't, because there's something about this deck that I find haunting. I really do. And it's unfortunate that all of the women are young and thin. But when I look at this card and I think about the energy of the card, I'm focusing more on the practice of Nadi Shodhana. And I'm imagining this creator as a young woman connecting to this part of herself and finding a way to incorporate this in the tarot deck. So, yeah. I see somebody mentioned, and there's just so many beautiful cards in this deck. So I'm not going to get rid of it because all the girls are young and skinny. Textured tarot. Yeah, I agree. The wheelchair people underneath the water is a little odd, but yes, I agree. I do. And then, okay, so I shared with you the Hilda deck recently, right? And Hilda was a pinup girl from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. She was around there for a long time, who is a little chubby. And I love that deck. But I've had decks like the Self-Love Tarot where I just felt really uncomfortable. I want thin people. I want chubby people. I want tall people and short people and white people and black people and brown people and old people and young people. I want all people. I just don't want a deck of, I don't know. And maybe I'm asking too much, right? It's, and maybe that's partly, the work that I do. I work with people from all over the world. And I have always been somebody who loved language and different foods and cultures. And yeah, it's important. It's important to me. Yeah. And purple people. Yes. People of any sort. Yeah. I have one dog deck. I don't think I will buy any cat or dog decks. I don't have any. One was gifted to me, and I will not give it away. And the reason for that is if I find that this is a really good deck for people who are going through grief or, a terrible loss. This is the Low Rider Dachshund Tarot by Melissa Wotherspoon. And she sent this to me. I didn't buy it. I'm not sure that I would buy a dog deck, but this deck is really something. It's all horizontal, and it's so sweet. It's so sweet. So please, nobody, don't send me any cat decks, dog decks. And I am slowly paring away my animal decks. I'm going to pull them all out and just keep one or two of them. Yeah. It's funny, when you say this, I love the guy on the motorcycle in the slow tarot. That sexy older Knight of Wands. Very much. Yeah. All right. Last one, promise. Cute decks. Cute decks. I do have one exception. I sold my Happy Tarot, my Mons Tarot, my Way of the Panda Tarot. I sold the Tarot of the Magical Forest. I tried to connect with all of those decks and couldn't. No way. Just too cute for me. Too much saccharine energy. So you all know I have this one. So the Playful Heart is my exception to cute. But this deck is so much more than a cute deck. This deck it reads really well, and I will keep this one, and I will also order the Marseille deck that is coming out from the same creator at some point, end of this year or next year. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah. All right. I just wanted to say that this deck feels like an exception for me. It doesn't feel like something that fits with anything else in my tarot library. And I don't know what it is. This was an Ally Man Made Me Do It deck. Ally Man Made Me Do It. And it was the Four of Discs, because the Four of Discs is in the Ally Man Tarot. And I haven't spent time with this deck. It's very outside of my purview, and we will look at it next year for sure when I do my my pip deck year. And I wasn't aware of the multicultural aspect of the majors and the court cards. And it's kind of wild and crazy, and I don't have anything else like this. So I don't know what exception category this deck fits into. Actually, that's not true. I have the Stunning Tarot, and the Stunning Tarot I think I would put in this same color scheme, but this deck is really something. I want to get to the pips. Where I can't find a pip for you. There's your Ace of Coins. I really like the pips in this deck. Yeah. So those, my friends, are my tarots of exception. Yeah. I think it's good to review our collections and go through. And actually, when I was going through all of the decks preparing for today, I pulled out 15, 20 decks that I've decided that I will be passing on. And so it's really good. It's good to go through and see what we need. they're very exciting. They're very exciting. And I will eventually spend some time prepping and looking more deeply at that deck and share it on my channel. Okay. Jonathan says, I have this deck. I don't know how to read with it. Well, Jonathan, if I figure it out, I will let you know. Oh. Good night, Saskia. Sleep well. Saskia's in Greece, so she's way over on the other side of the world. We actually have a lot of time zones here today. So Jonathan is the furthest west. He's in Hawaii, and Saskia is the furthest east. She's in Greece. So we're kind of all over the world today. There's a lot of people who are in North America, and a few people in the UK and the EU. Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it, to connect with everybody here. So thank you all so much for being here. I want to wish you the very best for your whatever energy you're putting into the equinox in Mabon, and have a fantastic weekend. Okay? Thank you. Goodbye. See you soon.